Hello everyone. In the last lecture, we talked about the interaction dynamics between a SaaS application and the cloud service provider, how a consumer interacts over the internet to a cloud service provider, how we redundantly use the same apps and allot them dynamically the resources which are available through a resource pool. So we had a discussion about that, and before that we talked about SaaS also. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the scope of control. What is the scope of control for an individual user and for the cloud service provider while we talk about a SaaS service delivery model? So talking about the scope of control, if you can see in this diagram, on one side we have one party to this model, which is our cloud service provider. On the other side we have the other party, which is our consumer, and in the middle we have a software stack, right? So we have hardware. On top of that hardware you need your operating system, then you need your platform or your development based software, or we call it middleware in other terms. On top of that you develop your application, whatever that may be, your software. So this is the entire software stack, and your cloud service provider is over here. There will be a pool of resources as well, which will be owned by your cloud service provider. So this is your one party. The other party is consumer, the end users, people like us who are taking advantage or who are actually using that service. For instance, we are talking about Gmail in this case to understand the scope of control. So talking about Gmail, what you can do, you can go to that website. You can use your password and Gmail address to log in. Once you log in, you can find out who has mailed you. You can send a mail to another person. You can then find out that there is Google Calendar also. You can find out that there are contacts also. There are different services which are there in your mailing application, which you can explore. And that is what we refer to as the limited control or user level control. As a user, what are the privileges which are given to you while using a software, right? And through that account you can change your template, you can change your signature, you can like find out what you can send, what all you can do through that software. And that a very limited control which we have over our own account, over our own personal Gmail addresses, the whatever changes you want to do, right? A very limited control is there at your hands. For example, in YouTube also, if I am uploading a video, there are very limited controls which I have over the content. Once that content is uploaded, I don't know where it exists. Similarly, once a mail is sent, you have no idea where that mail is located, which network was used, how it was delivered, which protocol was used. You are not going to have that idea because it is under this total control window. It is managed by our service provider. Over here you have just a very limited amount of control as an administrator of your own account, right? Be it any service, mail or any other software. As a user, you have user level control, but apart from that, apart from this application tier, you have no control over this stack, no control over the platform. You have no idea how it is being made or how it is being run, no control over the hardware. You have no idea legacy softwares are used, proprietary softwares are used, which type of operating system is used, what is the hardware, where is it located, what is the configuration. You have no idea. Just forget even about control. When we talk about software as a service, we are just talking about the delivery of software, the background story, how it runs, the hardware, the software, everything is hidden from the end user, from the cloud consumer, and that is why they have like no control over it. On the other hand, if we talk about our cloud service provider, the cloud service provider is going to have total administration control over your application. There will be complete control on the hardware because the cloud service provider is owning it, maintaining it. So there is total control. with respect to operating system, with respect to the platform being used. The entire stack is in the hands of your cloud service provider. And even for your application, for your software which is being used, the control still lies with your cloud service provider. At any point of time, the admin has the supreme authority. And similarly, if you launch a project on any cloud service provider, supposedly you launched a project on Amazon or GCP, you will have a root access ID, you will have some control as an administrator, right? Because you will be recruiting some resources, you will be installing some software, then you will be giving some privileges to maybe 10 employees under your company, then you will have administration control. But if you are just accessing a software, right, then you have no control over your hardware, you have no control over your software. All you get is a little bit of user level control and absolutely no control over this stack. But as we go towards different models, as we will discuss in future, when we will talk about PaaS, we will talk about IaaS. When we talk about PaaS, then the user has control of the middleware. The hardware he has no control over. But when we talk about infrastructure as a service, then the user also gets control of the hardware, right? So whenever we're dealing with cloud-based services, there is a lot of tension in deciding what is the scope for every party which is involved. What is the scope for a consumer? What is the scope for a provider? What is the scope for a broker? What is the scope for an auditor? So there are many parties involved, and how you manage those privileges, that is a very important topic, and that is one of the topics which is being debated upon. Whenever a new organization is moving to the cloud, when they are moving their services to the cloud, they are concerned about such issues only, about the scope of control which they are going to have. If they are migrating as on the basis of SaaS delivery model, then they can be really clear that the parties are not going to have any control over the hardware or the software. All that they will get is the advantage of using that particular application, while the entire control resides with our cloud service provider. So that is about the scope of control which exists between these two parties. Very logical, very basic explanation. Just think about it. Even if you design any software, any application, right, and you're just asking the other people to come use your service and just go back, how that service is managed, how that software is deployed, is it on Android or any other platform, that is your headache. How you have implemented it, right? You want the end user to come, access it and go. So if you're using such type of process to get your work done, then you're using SaaS model, software as a service model, and by very inference it is clear that the scope of control is going to be in the hands of provider, because provider is the owner of the hardware, provider is the owner of the software. The end user is just there as a consumer. The person will come, consume, pay for it and then go back. So that is all about the SaaS scope of control. In the next lecture, we are going to talk about the advantages of SaaS, and then we will talk about the disadvantages of SaaS. After that, we will jump on to platform as a service. Yeah, thank you very much.